Hey, listeners, welcome back to another episode of Not Your Average Breakdown podcast. I'm Claudia, your curious host, and here with me is the lady who turns my questions into answers, Alex. Alex, what is good?
Hi, Claudia. I literally just told you right before we started recording that I'm going to regret this episode.
Why do you think I have this big old smile on my face? Because I am enjoying this so much. And I know that you are spending this week on military duty, which weirdly kind of connects with the topic that we're going to be covering, which probably gives you even more anxiety about it. And it's probably the reason why I feel you've been avoiding this topic for a bit, which makes me excited to talk about it even more. So, how you feeling?
I have been avoiding this topic on the podcast since we started recording, but I have been avoiding this topic in our friendship
Yes.
for years, and this it's like there is a reoccurring theme and questions that I get asked throughout the years. And as I was getting ready today, I started thinking about it, and I remember on my 30th birthday, remember we went to Philly
Hmm.
and you fell asleep, and Allie and I stayed up and we were drinking, and we were like shooting the shit and talking
First of
about,
all,
whatever.
can we just talk about I will fall asleep anywhere. I think I'm narcoleptic, but so you saying that I fell asleep then I missed something is not a shocker to me, but
I
continue.
know, I'm sorry.
Yep.
It's just sort of also a funny part of
Yeah.
our friendship that you always
Yeah.
fall asleep and then argue with me and telling me that you didn't fall asleep.
I also like to deny that I'm sleeping.
Yeah.
So there's that. So, yep, totally makes
So
sense.
so me and Allie are just literally sitting on the same bed where you're sleeping and we're drinking White Claws or whatever the hell we were drinking. And so we're like talking like we're gossiping and talking about like whatever. And then she's like, "All right, Alex, so where are the aliens?" And I'm like, I don't know where are the aliens. And I'm gonna keep saying that throughout this podcast, okay? So I'm gonna preface it and put a big disclaimer out there. Okay. I am in the military. I'm serving in the United States Army. Very
Mhm.
proud of that. I
Mhm.
do have an active top secret security clearance. I do not know where the aliens are.
I don't believe you. And I feel like I just want to put out there that you have never indicated otherwise, but I feel like we may one day crack you when you least expect
Listen, I've been to SEER school.
it.
They taught me how to survive interrogations, okay?
For anybody, can you just explain what SEER school is because that is fucking badass and anybody that doesn't know what it is would totally miss that. So SEER school, please explain.
So it's a survival school essentially.
Where they
And
torture your ass.
yeah, well, a little bit. Pretty much it's school where they teach you how to survive being a POW or
Mhm.
like a political detainee. So they kind of beat you up a little bit, and the techniques that they use are quite physical and mental. And I'm not gonna go into the detail of what they do because I don't want to say too
But
much. They like to keep it like sort of in a very fucked up way for the military. That's very interesting. Like you don't want to ruin it for anybody else. You want them to go there and experience it for the first time, not
yeah, but
knowing what's going to happen, and also prevents them from like cheating the system or whatnot. But anyways, I've been through that school. I have a certificate to prove it.
you survived that school, but you have not survived Allie and I trying to trick you
I know.
into some underhanded shit to try to get you to spill the beans.
I will say this, okay? I spent majority of my military career serving in some badass units. It has never come up in any of my briefings, no matter classified or unclassified. We've never discussed aliens in any of my units. Okay, we've discussed many of classified things. Aliens were never on that list. So I'm just
If
gonna put that out there.
Okay, and if I start a movement of any of our listeners that want to put you on a lie detector test for that, I feel like that's my prerogative and my right.
I will pass that lie detector.
All right, bring it on. You heard it.
Right.
Listen, if you want to hear Alex on a lie detector test about aliens,
Yeah, you can
we
only
can
ask me
make it
about
happen.
aliens.
Okay, all right. We'll limit it to that because that's really all we want to know. So, obviously, this week we are talking about the increased scrutiny or lack of oversight by the government on UFOs. And of course, while we are at it, I'm going to attempt to sneak in a sprinkle of Area 51.
This was like the agreement or a compromise that we had because you and Ali wanted to talk about Area 51 and I refused to talk about Area 51 because
Exclusive.
it's such a huge conspiracy. But yes, we will touch up on it.
Just a little
Uh,
something.
let's not just focus on Area 51 because
All right, let's go where this podcast takes us.
okay, so let's start somewhere where there are actual facts, okay?
Okay.
Because Area 51, we have no clue what's happening over there. But we can talk about the aliens. I'm fine with that. We can talk about the like you said, increased scrutiny, where the government watchdog is really trying to figure out are there any aliens or UFOs or UAPs or whatever they want to call it now, and if there are some, does the government know about it? Does the government keeping the secret from the public, and does the government keeping secrets from other government agencies? So we've seen over the last few years there has been a lot of new interest, I guess, into UFOs and Area 51. You remember in like 2019 there was that kid that created that event on Facebook, like
Some
let's
loser. Yeah.
storm Area 51.
Mhm.
And then like a couple of hundred people actually ended up going there, but like the military,
They pulled out their guns
yeah,
and do
exactly.
what they do.
Of course. I mean, the military is gonna protect their assets. It's since 2019, Area 51 and UAPs or UFOs have been getting a lot of press. So last year in 2023, there was a huge happening in Congress and for United States that happened, and I feel like it went like very undetected
Mhm.
based on the fact that like our country is in a state of a chaos. The fact that there was this congressional hearing that was open to public, and that the whistleblower that came out of the government agency and said there are UFOs, like it almost went undetected.
Yeah, I remember that particularly where people were talking about how, wow, there was just an outing of the government acknowledging the existence of extraterrestrials, and nobody even paid attention because it's been such a shit show in the world.
So I listened to the congressional hearing that happened in July last year, and I I'm sort of interested in that topic. I'm not like overly into conspiracies and stuff. I personally don't believe there are aliens in Area 51, but that's just me. Do I think that we have aliens? Maybe. But the congressional hearing was just insane. I mean, it's open to public. You can find it on YouTube. There's the entire hearing. It's like I think like the entire clip is 2.5 hours, but the hearing itself is like maybe an hour, hour and a half, and it's like insane. Okay, so let's talk about what happened at the hearing and who were the people that were briefing the government. So three military veterans, two Navy pilots, and an Air Force pilot came in front of Congress and testified and said that two of them, the Navy pilots, they came in contact with a UAP, which is unidentified aerial phenomena. So it can be anything, right? Like it can
Mhm.
be a balloon, it can be a bag that just caught air and ended up,
Right.
but usually it's a little more than that, right? It's something they describe it as something, extraterrestrial, something that they never seen before. The technology was different and everything. And so the two Navy pilots, they said that they came in contact directly as they were flying, conducting training here in United States, that they came in contact with a UAP. The Air Force pilot, he was the government whistleblower. So he was a major in United States Air Force, and then he was on active duty, and then he switched to Air National Guard and reserves, similar like me, right? I'm in Army Reserves, and so I have a civilian job
Yep.
outside of the military. So he had the same, and he was in a very high position at NGA, which is National Geospatial Intelligence Agency. They're a very secretive organization that conducts all sorts of intelligence. And he was a GS-15, which is a senior civilian level for the government.
Okay.
And so GS positions, that's what they're called. General schedule, that's the GS, what it stands for. But that's what we call government civilians, right? GS employees.
Mhm.
And all of them have equivalent to the military ranks. So GS-15 is equivalent to Army colonel. Okay.
Wow.
Like
Okay.
that's a pretty high, senior position. So
You are a
he,
special civilian
yeah,
at that rank.
exactly. Yeah, like he has, a lot of pull. And so that's who he was.
Mhm.
Okay. So like he wasn't just some random dude off the street or whatever. He has all three veterans have a very exemplary military career.
They're credible then.
Yeah, exactly. Because that's what I was looking for. Like, okay, who are these people that are coming in front of Congress, right? Because
Mhm.
sometimes,
Yeah, it could be a
I,
whack
I,
job.
exactly, I feel like if we talk about aliens, it can go both ways.
Yeah.
The guy from the Air Force, his name is David Grush. He became a whistleblower from NGA because he tried to report several times that the government is not doing what they're supposed to do when it comes to reporting of these UAPs that people are seeing. And then he ended up interviewing like about 40 people that he worked with, and they were showing him evidence of UAPs that we have possession of, and he said that the government is running these secret programs to reverse engineer the
Wow.
technology of these like crash sites.
Okay.
But when he started sort of making a lot of noise around that, his job started retaliating against him, and there were some threats coming in. He was fearing for his life at one point. His family was fearing for their life. Like the government, I guess, started intimidating him and his family, but none of all those details were clear because it was a public hearing. So anything that requires sharing of sensitive information or classified information, it has to be done behind closed doors, as we've just had. I guess since their hearing in July, there was another hearing now in January, mid-January, where Inspector General for the intelligence community testified behind closed doors in front of Congress, which means it was a classified briefing, and so they could ask him classified information where in a public hearing these three veterans could not answer. And
Wow.
a lot of times when the Congress people asked David Grush if he can answer certain questions, and he said, I cannot answer it in a public hearing. This has to be done in a skiff, in a classified facility behind closed doors. And I mean, some of the questions that he couldn't answer were wild. Okay.
Do you have an
Wild.
example? Do you have an example?
I do. I like highlighted it in my notes because it said several times during the hearing, Grush deflected lawmakers' questions, saying he could only elaborate in a SCIF, a sensitive compartment information facility, which is exactly what it is, a space where you can discuss classified information. He said those instances include when he was asked if the government has had any contact with aliens and whether anyone had been murdered to cover up information about extraterrestrial technology. Grush said he could not comment.
What?
Yeah, my jaw was on the floor.
That's
Yeah,
basically an admission.
I don't know if it's admitting. I'm sure. All right, let's
Mhm.
back it up. The problem with classified information, any type of classified information, I deal with this on a daily basis. I dealt with when I was on active duty. There is a big issue within any organization that uses classified markings,
Mhm.
is that typically we overclassify. We classify images and photos of a space that you can find on Google Maps. but we classify it for the mission purposes. And then we cannot declassify those until somebody puts in a request to declassify, but either a FOIA act, like Freedom of Information Act, or whatever congressional inquiries where we have to declassify. So that's where you run into these problems. Sometimes the simple answer is no to a question, but you can't even say that no because the information is classified. And so,
Let me ask you, why then, why anything that has to do extraterrestrial? Why is that classified? And what are they scared about sharing that information with the public? His mass
so
hysteria? Like, you know, help me
no,
figure that out.
I think the biggest concern is national security. Let's say, hypothetically speaking, there are non humans, right? That's what they call
Mhm,
them, like
mhm.
non humans. They are somewhere in our space. Like these two fighter pilots for the Navy, they said they spotted them like here in continental US. One of them said in like Virginia Beach.
Oh,
Like
okay.
like several times, not just like one time. I think I was tired and I saw something. Like it
Yeah.
became like a frequent sighting when they
Did
were flying missions.
they provide anything else other than, a story, a recounting of it?
Yes. So in 2020, Pentagon actually declassified one of the videos from one of those pilots' missions.
Well, why would they do that?
Well, how do I explain this? The government, let's say, right, that's what I started saying. Let's say there are non-humans in our space,
Mhm.
in our area, and the government is potentially aware of them. But let's say we don't know what kind of technology they have, or maybe we do know what kind of technology they have. And if their technology is far more advanced than ours, then we don't know what that technology can do to us. Can it just, jam couple of radars? Because that's what the pilots reported, that like incompletely jams like all of their radars, signals, everything. And is it like simple as that, like some little interference, right, between two technologies? Or are they friendly? Are they trying to occupy the earth? I know that sounds like
No, I
almost
mean,
like unbelievable,
right.
but that's like we have to take in consideration like what is the intent of these non-humans coming in and trying to get in contact with us, right?
Right. If you're gonna
Or
talk about the possibility of non-humans, then those are logical questions to ask next, you know?
exactly. And so that's why I say national security and defense is a priority of any government agency, especially intelligence community. And I don't mean only Department of Defense and the military, CIA, DIA, NGA, everybody that deals with any type of national security. This is their bread and butter, right? Like keeping their citizens safe. And we might have something on them. There might have been a crash site and we collected, their vehicle, and now we're trying to reverse engineer it and figure out what kind of metals and components they have. What are they made out of? Is it something that we can source or we cannot source? But if we have possession of something that we are not really sure what can cost to us, then it would behoove the government to keep it shut and not talk about it because, like you said, they can cause mass hysteria, but they can also cause a huge breach of national security because our adversaries, other countries, can use that against us as well.
But aren't we all in this together? I mean, if there's non-human life, we're all on the same team, right?
I wish that's how it is. But I mean, hypothetically speaking, yes. But we are still, that doesn't change the fact that we have adversaries like North Korea, Iran, Russia, Yemen at this point, right? Like all these different entities that are working against us. So if they know that we have a deficiency in our air defense, in our any type of defense, military defense, they can use that against us and try to harm us. That's why the government classifies all these things. Okay.
Okay, so then why did they declassify one video?
So the government actually declassifies a lot of stuff. you just have to put in a FOIA request. Like I said, Freedom of Information Act. A lot of press does it. That's how they write, bombshell articles and expose a lot of things. You have to put in that request, and then the government reviews those documents and either redacts a lot or releases only, like, 100 pages of 2,000 pages, and or they release them in like portions. That way, like the JFK files are a perfect example. JFK assassination, it was classified for like 50 years. And now they started releasing like bits and pieces of, his assassination.
Oh, maybe that's
So
something we need to cover at some point.
I find it very fascinating. I think it's almost like a good conspiracy theory as well, JFK assassination. But he like that's a perfect example of it, right? Like the government doesn't want to release all of the information at once because and usually when they don't do that, when they don't release everything, it's usually because there are personnel that are still alive. And if they're named, their lives may be in danger. So
Mm,
that's the primary reason why government agencies only declassify portions, or they redact a lot, or they just deny the request. But a lot of stuff, like when the government denies to declassify stuff, usually what happens is people take them to court. Like they sue the government, and then the
mm.
government has to declassify documents because they usually lose in
Wow,
court.
okay.
Yeah, it happens a lot. Like New York Times, Washington Post, like all major news outlets and newspapers, like they sue government on the regular for the FOIA request.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Okay. So, all right. So that's why they declassified it. Back to that hearing then. So you have all the officers and the whistleblower talking about this. So what happened out of that?
So I think Congress, it's a kind of funny because like our country is very polarized when it comes to politics,
Mhm.
especially now we're heading into, general election, and the two sides cannot be more, opposite and polarized at this point. But it's funny to listen to them when it comes to stuff like this. Like they're very interested on both aisles to learn about the UFOs because the government is so secretive, like not even the Congress knows about it. This hearing, I mean, I really, if people are interested in this and they have not heard this hearing, I would like highly suggest it. YouTube it. As I said, it's worth every minute of it because what these people are saying to Congress is like insane. So pretty much they said that there is this like secret branch of the Pentagon that is investigating and reverse engineering whatever UFOs
Craft.
that
Yeah.
they found. So one of the congressmen was like, "What do you mean? Like it's a secret? You're saying like the budget that we approve here is appropriated to something else, but ends up not going there. It goes to this like secret little department in like somebody's basement or something." And this guy was like, "Yeah, that's exactly what happens." He's like, "It's misappropriation of funds. That's how they get funded. It's like black site funding. It's like general government doesn't know about it, and they just like pull money from all sorts of sources and they fund this like little office where they're investigating UFOs." It was
Well,
pretty wild.
it sounds like you need a lot more money than just a little office if you are keeping that sort of aircraft somewhere and testing it and reverse engineering it. That's a whole
Oh,
lot more.
oh, of course. I mean, but that's what I'm saying. Like the money is misappropriated, so God knows how they got it. They might have even claimed that they're, starting a new office for insert issue, but in reality, it's non-existent
That, yeah.
office, and they keep getting funding. And, I'm sure they get funded through defense budget. This is all bankrolled like by misappropriation of funds. And I was like, did he just say that like in front of Congress?
Yeah,
Like,
seriously.
yeah.
He's just putting a target on his back.
Yeah, and he was like one of the congressmen that was questioning him was like does this mean that the money in the budget that is set to go to a program but it doesn't go there and go somewhere else? And this guy was like, yes, I have specific knowledge of that. And he was like, but I cannot provide further details because the information is classified. So I was just like, this, like the whole hearing, like I cannot even believe what I'm hearing right now. Like, how are we not talking about this? Like, this happened in July. Why are we not talking about this still? Like, there is so
That
many
is
things.
insane.
Yeah, I can pull like so many different things, or like budget. Like our budget is still in the news. Like we still don't have an appropriate budget. Like we keep passing these continuing resolutions and they're constantly fighting, right? Like over money. How are we not trying to figure out, wait a minute, who's funding this little office that nobody knows about? That it's like top secret and above classified and like nobody has access to. But like this Air Force major, he, like I said, he was interviewing like over 40 people and they were all like showing him evidence and stuff, but he just couldn't take it. Obviously, like if he publishes it to the newspapers, like then he can be charged with treason and espionage and all sorts of things.
Oh,
So that's
okay.
what,
So
yeah,
he was visually seeing it, but he has no
yeah,
evidence, physical as evidence that he could take. Wow.
yeah. And so like they're
But they're
being
putting by just going there and making these statements, they're putting their careers on the line, they're putting their families on the line. I mean, you have to be pretty confident that what you're telling these people
mhm.
and the public, that you better have something to back yourself up. But because it's he can't say it all in public, and this is all the rest of it has to be behind closed doors, they can they can do whatever they want with that information.
Yes, but I was gonna say there is a right way to be a whistleblower and a wrong way to be a whistleblower, and we've seen this, especially since the start of the war in early 2000s. We've had some high-profile whistleblowers in the military. Edward Snowden is a big one. He deflected to Russia, and I understand where he came from. He was concerned about the people, like
The
us
CIA, right?
citizens.
He whistleblew on the CIA, right?
NSA, which is
NSA.
it's the same shit.
Yep.
So he was concerned with the safety of us as citizens, and he was trying to blow a whistle. Like he was talking to his superiors and like, hey, this is not ethical or this is illegal and we're not supposed to do this and it's unconstitutional and whatnot. And like everybody was just shutting him down. And so he, for some fucking ungodly reason, just took all this classified information and gave it to a news outlet, which is the worst thing that you can do. Like, I support free press, but you just gave them like a fucking weapon, a loaded gun, and pointed it at us.
Right. This is what we're doing over here.
Exactly. So, like, he took all this classified information and gave it to the free press, which is like it should have never happened. Okay. So that's why I said like there is a right way to be a whistleblower and there's a wrong way to be a whistleblower. And he was the wrong way of whistleblower, even though he had best intentions. But
Do you
the,
feel that these military men did this properly?
I think they did it properly because they didn't take any of those classified information and published it to some random news outlet. Like they actually went in front of a Congress and said, like, hey, there are these things that we have knowledge of based on these interviews and evidence that we collected, but we cannot show you this in a public hearing. But if you provide us with an appropriate space where we can discuss classified information, then we can discuss this further and we can tell you, maybe some names, locations, X, Y, and Z, right? Yeah, they confirmed some things that we were all wondering about, like, hey, are there any UFOs? Or do we have possession of, flying saucers? And
Did they
they were
confirm
like,
that?
well, yes, they said that we have possession of some non-human biology.
The government said that?
The whistleblower said that.
Right, but did anybody, from the government on the government side of things, did
Oh
they
no, I mean,
accept that?
no, the government like blatantly like denied everything. They said that we have no knowledge of this, we have no possession of this. They tried to discredit him, but I feel like it's very hard to discredit somebody who has a very stellar career between military service and civilian service. Like, this dude is not just some that they picked up randomly on the side of the street, you know? Like, this dude spent decades in defense industry and
Yeah. And he's
working.
risking so much by coming forward with this information.
Yeah, exactly.
So he said that we're in possession of non-human remains.
Yeah, like
Fuck.
I think he said like non-human biology, and I was like, what?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yeah. He said U.S. has recovered non-human biologics from alleged crash sites.
You know,
Yeah,
if I were going to change a career, that'd be a pretty cool career, right? To go to crash
dude,
sites and take non-human biological evidence.
I feel
Like, what
like
do
I
you
would.
do?
I don't know. I would hate it, like because I couldn't tell anybody.
No, I'd be too scared. It's not for me, but it'd be listen, I would go to work every day like, what the hell is going to happen today? You know?
I know. I don't know. I'm interested in aliens, but not interested like that. Like I don't know. I just don't care enough for it. I feel like we made a lot of it's a lot of sensationalism about it,
Yeah.
because
I
of
mean, you have to sort
Hollywood.
through a lot of shit. Yeah.
Exactly, like the Area 51. I think it's a like prime example. Area
So,
51.
funny you should mention Area 51. What do you have to say about it?
All right, Area 51 is a highly classified military base. I don't know anything based on my military service. I have zero knowledge off of it. Okay, that is so. Let me tell you this. Area 51 is so high up classified, like above my head, that not even some presidents know about it.
But that's what makes it so interesting.
So, President Clinton, when he left the office, he was giving an interview to like one of the late night shows. I forgot which one it was, but like Jimmy Kimmel or somebody. They asked him about Area 51, and he said like the first thing that he did when he came to office was get one of his aides to investigate what's happening at Area 51 because he wanted to know if there are aliens there because they like didn't even tell him. Like the president gets briefed on and read on like all these super secret
Topics.
things, topics,
Mhm.
operations, whatever, but like they didn't even tell him about Area 51. That's how fucking classified that thing is, which leads me to believe that Area 51 is still currently a weapons testing site, which
Yeah.
that's what it was in the 50s when we acquired it. The government acquired it because it was nothing. They acquired it to start testing some spy craft. I think they initially started like during World War II, but then when Cold War started, that's where they were developing all of these spy crafts, like the legendary U-2, Lockheed Martin U-2, that they used to spy on the Soviets. And so like the CIA owned the site, but the CIA doesn't want to own the aliens. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like they want to own something related to defense, intelligence, weapons of mass destructions, maybe, or some cool aircrafts or guns and weapons that they want to test and shoot that nobody else can see because it's the middle of nowhere.
Right.
Why would they want to keep a little green man in a tube?
Because it's in the middle of nowhere and nobody could see it.
True. I mean, that's a valid point, but I feel like the CIA doesn't get involved in stuff like that. They're involved into intelligence stuff. And so I don't really know what I know it's a active Air Force base currently, but it's like so classified that
Yeah, like who has access to there now? Like who do you have to be to get into there?
I mean, I don't I'm assuming you get appointed to those to that duty station. Like you don't just get random orders like, oh yeah, you're going to Area 51. I forgot what
Mhm.
their actual name is for that base, but like you probably have to be appointed, and they tell you you're going there, and they
Is it
hand select
any
you.
any branch of the military you could
Mm-mm.
be, or you have to be a certain
Yeah, it's
branch
Air
of the
Force.
military? It's just Air Force out there.
From what I know, it's an Air Force base. So I'm assuming only Air Force goes there, unless it's like a joint base
Mhm.
where other branches can go. But I would highly doubt that because it's so classified. They don't want to let anybody else in. From my understanding, there's like still a whole bunch of civilians that work there that probably work on developing some weapons or aircraft. But the cool part, and I think this is why also there's like a lot of conspiracy about it, is because did you ever hear like how they get on the base?
No.
Like they don't drive to the gate, like how I drive here and give my
Yeah.
CAC. And so they have jet that takes them. So it's like I think it's like some bullshit airline that the government made up probably because it's called Janet. I found that funny. I don't know if Allie knows that.
Janet. That's the
Janet.
airline?
Yeah. And
So
so
everybody that works there has to take
mhm,
this? Shut up.
yeah, so like every day they get flown in and then flown out.
That's freaking cool.
Yeah.
That is cool.
That's a perk of a job right there.
Just gotta take the jet, carpool in
Yeah.
today.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, that is a nugget I did not know.
Mhm.
And so it probably makes the gate easier to keep because
Mhm.
there's no ins and outs. It's literally nobody going in through that
Mhm.
entrance.
Yeah.
Oh. Well,
And I
this all adds up. It all adds up. There's just so many particular things that happen there that happen nowhere else that of course everybody's going to just make up stories
so do you know why actually like Area 51 became so like highly controversial and sort of attached to all sorts of conspiracies about it?
because they won't because everything's top secret and they won't give us any
Mm-mm.
information.
No. And there's a couple of documentaries about this, and I think one of them is on Netflix. I watched one like a long time ago. In 1989, this guy who claimed that he worked at Area 51. His name is Bob Lazar. I don't know if that name rings the bell.
It's
Like
kind of
people usually know, probably not this generation, but our generation. Like Bob Lazar was like a big name. He in 1989 he came out and said that he used to work at Area 51 on this like highly classified project and that he was working on aliens and that they had possession of these like flying saucers. And he gave an interview and since has like he wrote a book and was in like a whole bunch of documentaries and stuff, but he was saying how like he that was his job, that he worked on like these non-humans and trying to reverse engineer whatever the government gave him. But the government came out and said that they have no record of his employment, they have no clue who he is and stuff, which can also be like the government just went and burned the
yeah,
papers of.
right.
But a lot of people discredited him, so I'm not really sure that's true. Was he looking for publicity? Was he looking to spark a conspiracy and stuff?
Mm.
But that sort of put Area 51 on the map. That was in 1989. The government didn't admit that Area 51 was a proper government classified base until like 2013. Like legit, like they did not acknowledge that at all.
But
But in
that feeds the conspiracies.
exactly. But in 2013, the CIA declassified some of the documents from the Cold War about like these spy crafts that they were building at Area 51, and that's how they acknowledged that that was their site. But the CIA left probably since the Cold War ended. They left that site and gave it back to the military. So that's why the military uses it. But I must like military probably just continue doing. There is no way in hell. Listen, I'm in the army, okay? There is no way that there is some airman in that fucking base trying to reverse bioengineer some non-human remains or something, like we
Mm.
where do you even receive that type of military training? Like it just for me that's sort of like little out there.
But if there's all this secrecy and all this stuff that goes on and layers of shit. I mean, who knows what you could even believe? Like, I could
Yeah.
definitely see from your
Hmm.
perspective, like, okay, this is, there's no way, whatever. But you might not even, there might be so many layers to this that you don't even come close
Oh,
to it, you
100%.
know?
I mean, I try to
So,
approach it. I think I try to approach it from like my military experience.
right. And you're very logical. So
Like
for you to
it's
believe
like
in something, you need tangible proof. You need, it needs to make sense to you. And I could see
yeah,
where it doesn't.
I feel like military, it's like, I don't know how to say it. If you're in the military, I feel like you probably think the same way I do, right? Because you know your people that you're working with. Like, there's no way in hell the military is involved in such, operation because I feel like they have to be so hand selected. If there is anybody working on aliens, which like this guy was testifying in Congress, for me, it makes more sense that there is another defense or intelligence agency who has a whole bunch of civilians that they can vet and train to do that specifically, not the military, right?
Right. Right. Maybe they're even keeping them out of it. They're just saying, hey, your post is your post
Hmm.
and you cannot ask any other questions. And
Yeah,
and that covers a lot of areas. That can mean extraterrestrial, that means weapons, that means, top secret anything.
they can lie to them as well. They're like, "Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
we're totally doing X, Y, and Z here." If they don't have access to through that door, they don't know what happens behind the
They don't
door.
know.
So it's like
Yeah, they don't know.
all bullshit aside, I feel like the military is not involved into it. If it is, it's in some like extremely high level and it's only selected few. Um,
How much did you get paid to say that?
I wish.
Right, exactly. I wish that you got paid.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so then I have a left field question. You
Hit me
probably
with it.
can't answer you probably can't answer it, but I want to put this out there. Do you think we're capable of defending ourselves against extraterrestrials?
Ooh, that's a good question. I mean, I don't know because I don't know what they have. As I said, like in this congressional hearing, you hear them explain these like objects that they came at 15 feet from, and were like having a standoff in the air, and one of them was like on white water, and logically it was not supposed to be there. Like it had nothing to support itself to do that, but it did, and it was like so fast. It was
Mhm.
like it was in and out in like this rapid speed, and like these people were just left dumbfounded, like what the hell just happened, so it makes you think like what kind of technology do they have and how is our technology effective? Like I think we have some pretty cool technology. I mean, military aside, like look at how far we've come digitally, right? Like you and I are talking through this computer and like our phones are pretty much like our assistants. Like you can do almost everything on your phone. It cannot clean your house. That's pretty much the only thing that it cannot do.
But not so far advanced that from this hearing we're finding out that they still keep crashing shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Not too good not to crash, just like a human.
Well, yeah, but you don't know if they got, yeah, I don't know. Did they get hit? Did we,
We would have known if they had fired at us or something, so they don't use that kind of technology on us, they're not posing a threat in that manner, because if they did, then we would all know about it.
yeah, they, I don't know. I feel like if they're here flying around, like,
Checking it out.
seen on East Coast, I feel like they're as curious about us as we're about them. I
I
don't
can't
know.
wrap I can't wrap my head around it.
I don't know.
I
I want to know where they came from because I feel like Earth in our universe, Earth
Yeah.
is very unique to all of
Mhm.
our other planets that we have around us. So I wonder like how they feel if they're flying over New York City and see
Yeah,
Times
right.
Square,
How is this?
Yeah. I think before hearing these people in front of Congress, I was like, nah, I don't know. It's a whole bunch of horseshit, you
Yeah,
know?
hearsay. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, oh, they saw something in the air, blah blah blah. But like one of the guys actually said that a lot of commercial pilots see them and they try to
Makes
report
sense.
them, but commercial airlines do not have a proper reporting system, and that's one of the
Mhm.
things that they were trying to. that came out of this January hearing that was classified, that they're trying to come up, they're trying to pass an act. I think it was called Americans for Safe Aerospace Act, but essentially it would establish a one centralized reporting system. So like, I don't know, I'm oversimplifying it, but let's say like it's a hotline, right? Like this Delta airline pilot spots a UFO and he's like, oh, holy shit, this just happened, like, over Alaska. He can call this number and give all the details and provide videos or signals, radars, whatever he had. So they're trying to establish like one centralized place where they can report both military and commercial pilots,
Mm.
that and then that way the government can investigate it properly and see if there's any correlation between like what they were seeing. So I think that's a good step in the right direction. It's very interesting. And after hearing them explain like these objects, like one of them said that it was like a tic tac object that like had nothing. Like it was just so insane that it was flying, no windows, no nothing. And it was like running circles around this Navy fighter jet. And then this other Navy pilot said that it was like a little cube instead of a clear sphere. And I was like, that is the most bizarre description of anything, you
Yeah.
know? But the way that they were describing it, they had like so much emotion in their voice. I was like, oh yeah, I'm like, the government definitely has UFO.
Well, now I gotta watch it. Shit.
Yeah, I'll send
I
you the
mean,
link.
yeah. I mean, you piqued my interest when you were talking about it, and
Yeah.
I'm so curious.
But I'm telling you, everything that came out of their mouth, I was like,
Oh wow.
you just like cannot believe like this is what they're saying.
Oh my god. Now I gotta go listen to it.
Yeah.
Oh man, now I'm not gonna sleep at night. It's fine. It's
I'll
fine. And
I'll post the link in our podcast description
I love that.
to
Yeah.
YouTube so people can click on it.
Yep.
Pretty
So
good.
we don't know. I mean, obviously, we've done this a lot on our podcast. We talk about it. We don't know, but we just wanted to put out any of the information that we know that we do know out there and have a conversation about it. And that's why this was a fun conversation. This was a fun one.
Yeah, I think it was pretty interesting.
I hope
Um,
that other people find it fun too. And
y-
I know a few people that will.
I know. I just hope the government doesn't knock on my door
I know
when I
you
publish
are
this.
so on a list, man. And I wonder if I'm on a list because of you.
I'm definitely on the list because of my Google search, my fake
Yes,
identities,
I
my
know, exactly. You are on our list on many lists for many reasons, but now I feel like my association with you is getting me on lists as well. So here we go. Bring it.
I'm sorry. At least the FBI is watching.
So you know what? You make life exciting. That's
Yeah,
all I can ask for.
you're
All
welcome.
right. That's a wrap. We did good. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. It was super fun. Like my face hurts because I've been smiling the whole time just because I love making you uncomfortable and but you got into it too. So I don't feel bad at all. But before you go, don't be a stranger. We want to hear from you. Share your thoughts on today's episode. I mean, it was a super fun one. Do you believe? Do you not believe? We want to hear your conspiracy theories. What do you believe? Do you have close encounters you want to talk about? Tell us.
I was about to say that. I
Yeah,
was about to say it.
we're here for it all. We want to hear
Drop
like
it in our inbox.
yeah, drop it in the inbox or obviously comment on our social medias. But our inbox, if you want to get personal, is nyabpodcast@gmail.com. And if you feeling fancy, connect with us on our social media platforms. We're everywhere.
Yes. TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube,
YouTube.
Snapchat. I
Yep.
even started a Pinterest account. I
Jesus
mean,
Christ. I think that every week you just add a new one. You're just making shit up at this point.
listen, I'm trying to get us out there. All right,
Listen,
make us heard.
I'm not complaining. I'm not complaining, but every week, I don't think you even sleep at night, to be honest with you.
I don't sleep at night. That's my problem. Thank you, U.S. Army.
Yeah. You're welcome, listeners, because this is how we're able to do this. So,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. So we'll catch up with you guys next week for more conversation. See you then.
Bye, everyone.